When the US government announced it would pay people to live in this town, everyone turning the offer down for one of the strangest reasons imaginable. Welcome back to 9M Discovery. Dear viewers, when the US government announced it would pay anyone willing to move to an abandoned town, many people saw it as a rare opportunity. After all, housing was free and monthly financial support was guaranteed. At a time when the economy has been tough, that kind of offer felt almost impossible to refuse. However, it didn't take long before everyone began saying no, not because the town was too remote, and not because the living conditions were lacking, but because of a reason so strange that even the bravest people felt a chill run down their spine. Something invisible, yet deeply unsettling, something that made anyone who set foot there unable to stay for long. Garnet is a small town tucked away in the western United States, a place that still holds many stories from a long-forgotten past. Back in the 1860s, when the gold rush was at its peak, people flooded into this area hoping to change their lives overnight. At that time, Garnet was not yet known by its current name. It was simply called Mitchell, named after one of the first miners to arrive. Everything changed when gold-bearing quartz veins were discovered in the surrounding hills. In a short time, Garnet transformed into a booming gold mining town filled with dreams of fortune and a better life. During its peak years, Garnet was as lively as any small city of its era. More than 1,000 residents lived here, forming a vibrant community. Saloons, hotels, general stores, a school, and a post office sprang up, providing everything people needed for daily life. Wooden cabins were built to house miners who spent long, exhausting days working the distant hills. For a while, it seemed as if prosperity would last forever. But like many boom towns of the American West, that golden age was short-lived. As the gold slowly ran out, mining became more difficult and less profitable. Miners and their families began leaving Garnet in search of new opportunities. Streets that were once crowded grew quiet, and the town slipped into silence, broken only by the wind moving through abandoned buildings. Then, in 1912, disaster struck. A massive fire swept through Garnet, destroying many wooden homes and key structures. With both the gold and the town's infrastructure gone, there was little reason to stay. By the time World War II began, Garnet had faded into obscurity. Eventually, the last residents left, abandoning the town and leaving behind only the echoes of a once thriving past. Today, Garnet is not completely erased from the map, but its history still lingers, frozen in time among the quiet remains of a town that once promised everything. Marion was a woman who had lost her husband in a cave-in. She chose to stay in Garnet. She didn't just survive there. She took over one of the town's old saloons, a place that became part of what little community remained. In many ways, Marion served as a bridge between Garnet's past and present, a living witness to its forgotten years. She was not only a comforting presence for those who passed through, but also a deep mystery to visitors. People said she was always willing to share stories of Garnet's golden age, when the town was alive and the gold rush drew people from everywhere, coming and going. She spoke of excitement and hope, but also of darker tales, strange events that no one could fully explain. Her stories sent chills down the listener's spine, yet they were impossible to ignore, as if something unresolved still lingered in the town. After Marion passed away, Garnet grew even quieter, and many began calling it a true ghost town. Yet some claim she never truly left. Visitors in later years reported seeing a figure standing in the saloon window, staring out at the empty street. Others said they heard her faint but clear voice, as if she were still telling stories to someone unseen. Were these accounts simply imagination, or is something far more mysterious still hidden within Garnet? In recent years, the U.S. government has begun efforts to restore Garnet, hoping to preserve its historical value and the untouched beauty of the town. Local officials didn't want Garnet to fade into obscurity, so they introduced what seemed like an incredibly generous plan: free housing and free meals for anyone willing to move there. Not only that, newcomers would also receive monthly financial support, so they wouldn't have to worry about basic living needs. With its quiet lifestyle and vast, unspoiled nature, the offer sounded almost too good to be true, especially for those looking to escape the noise, pressure, and chaos of modern city life. Garnet is surrounded by miles of open wilderness, silent and remote. And yet, despite how attractive the proposal seemed, very few people, and eventually almost no one, was willing to actually live there. There were many reasons for this hesitation, but all of them pointed to one unavoidable conclusion. Garnet was not just an ordinary ghost town. There were real, practical reasons that made people uneasy about the idea of moving in. The town is extremely isolated, far removed from everything else. There is no Wi-Fi, no modern conveniences people take for granted in cities. There are no places for entertainment, very limited infrastructure, and nothing but endless quiet. For many, the thought of living in such isolation, without technology, without connection, without nearby neighbors, felt deeply unsettling. On top of that, the government added one important condition. Anyone who chose to live in Garnet would be required to help maintain the town. This meant working at the local souvenir shop, maintaining historic buildings, and occasionally guiding tourists through the area. For people used to fast-paced urban life, spending day after day in a nearly empty town doing routine work was hardly appealing. However, these reasons were only the surface. The true reason people refused Garnet seemed far darker. Those who had visited or stayed overnight spoke of strange stories, ghostly encounters, and unexplained phenomena. Many reported an overwhelming sense of unease, as if the town itself was sharing space with something dark and hostile. Locals had their own explanations, and many believed Garnet was cursed. They said the spirits of those who died during the town's golden years still wandered its streets. Stories of apparitions, unexplained sounds, and eerie experiences have been passed down for generations. For those who truly understand Garnet's history, these are not just old legends, but serious warnings. Even the most skeptical visitors struggled to ignore repeated reports of impossible sights, unexplainable noises, and an atmosphere that could shift from peaceful to bone-chilling as soon as night fell. It almost feels as if Garnet itself does not want people to return, as though the town is determined to remain frozen in silence, forever a ghost of what it once was. One of the most frightening stories comes from Alan Matthews, a historian who once visited Garnet to conduct research for the Bureau of Land Management. Alan was well known for his skepticism toward anything supernatural. He had spent his entire career studying the history of ghost towns across the American West and had never believed in eerie legends or paranormal tales. But what he experienced in Garnet completely changed his perspective. One evening, while sitting at his desk working, Alan noticed something strange outside his window. In the dim light, he saw an elderly woman standing silently at a window of an old hotel across the street, staring directly at him. At first, he assumed it was just a trick of the light or a reflection, but the figure didn't move. The longer he stared, the clearer and more real it appeared. Unable to shake the growing sense of unease, Alan decided to investigate. He crossed the street and entered the hotel, expecting to find nothing more than an empty, dusty building. Instead, the air inside felt heavy and tense, almost suffocating. He searched the entire place from top to bottom, but there was no one there, no signs of life at all. Still, the strange feeling lingered, and he could not explain what he had seen. The experience left Alan deeply shaken, and he later admitted that it forced him to rethink everything he believed about Garnet. Alan's story is just one of many unsettling accounts from people who have visited the town, stories so disturbing that even the most skeptical individuals find them hard to dismiss. Over the years, other visitors have shared chilling experiences of their own. Some reported hearing footsteps echoing through abandoned buildings, even though they were the only people in town. Others spoke of whispers, sudden laughter, or distant screams rising from the darkness. But what unsettled many the most was the sound of a piano playing a slow, mournful melody late at night, despite the fact that there is no piano in Garnet, or at least none that anyone has ever been able to find. Another deeply unsettling story comes from a married couple who decided to spend the night in Garnet during a journey across Montana. They had heard the strange and unsettling stories surrounding the town, but instead of fear, they felt curiosity. Arriving in the late afternoon, they spent time exploring the old wooden buildings and taking in the raw, untouched beauty of the surrounding wilderness. As darkness settled in, they returned to a restored cabin and prepared for what they believed would be a quiet night. Late that night, a sudden loud noise from outside jolted them awake. Still disoriented and unsure of what was happening, they got out of bed to investigate. The sound continued, rhythmic and forceful, as if someone were striking the cabin from the outside. When they stepped out into the night, however, there was nothing there. No wind, no animals, no visible cause. And then, without warning, the noise stopped completely, replaced by a silence so heavy it felt as though the air itself had grown tense. They went back inside, hoping the incident was over. But the strange events did not end there. Not long after, they were awakened again, this time by the sound of footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate steps crunching against the gravel, moving around the cabin as if someone were circling it. The footsteps continued for several long moments, then gradually faded away. No other sounds followed for the rest of the night. But fear had already taken hold. As soon as the first light of dawn appeared, the couple packed their belongings and left Garnet without hesitation. They later swore they would never return, and their experience quickly became part of the town's growing collection of dark legends. Whether these stories are the result of imagination or something truly unexplainable, they have helped create a constant sense of unease around Garnet. For those who believe in the supernatural, even hearing these accounts is enough to send a chill down the spine. Because of stories like these, many people say Garnet is a place best avoided by believers and skeptics alike. Here, the past feels unusually present, deeply rooted in empty streets and silent buildings. Despite tempting incentives, few are willing to risk living in a place where it is not just isolation or the lack of modern comforts that frightens people, but a past that refuses to remain buried. Garnet is not just an abandoned town. It is a living witness to old legends, a place where reality quietly overlaps with the shadows of those who once lived and perhaps never truly left. The sound of a piano echoing at midnight, the strange footsteps moving around the cabins late at night, these are not just legends, but vivid experiences reported too often to be ignored. These are not simple folk tales. They are the breath, the spirit of Garnet itself. A haunted legacy that sends a chill through anyone who comes too close. It is this fear of the unknown, of strange and unexplainable phenomena, that has turned Garnet into a place people avoid. Even though the U.S. government hopes to restore the town and bring new life back to it, it almost feels as though Garnet itself is determined to hold on to its past. For most people, no matter how appealing life here may seem on the surface, the idea of living in Garnet feels far too dangerous to attempt. Because Garnet is not just a location, it is a presence, a ghost too powerful to be forgotten. Thank you for watching today's video. We hope the story of the ghost town of Garnet brought you a sense of curiosity, mystery, and discovery. Every place, every historic site carries its own hidden stories, lessons about time, change, and human ambition. Garnet's story is not only a warning about abandonment, but also a reminder of the strength of the past and how some mysteries are never easily explained. Have you ever experienced something similar in your own life? And do you believe in ghosts? Share your thoughts and join the discussion in the comments below. If you enjoy exploring mysterious places and unexplained stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future videos. We're always here to bring you stories that are intriguing, mysterious, and full of surprises. Once again, thank you for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you again on our next journey into the unknown.